Good evening and welcome to the school committee meeting tonight, Monday, September 8th. The meeting is being recorded and aired live on LCTV as well as being live streamed. If you're interested, the link is available on the town's website at longmeadow.org. So we will begin this evening with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The Long Meadow School Committee maintains educational policies that foster continuous improvement by challenging and supporting all children in a safe and caring learning environment, enabling them to reach their highest potential and to become productive citizens. Through effective communication and positive relationships, the Long Meadow School Committee will make informed decisions in the best interest of the students, the schools, and the Long Meadow community. Correspondence? Trying to open my phone.
There is no correspondence.
Okay. We have visitors who will be speaking later. Any school committee comments? John?
Yes, I'd like to remind everyone that tomorrow in Massachusetts is the primary election to choose candidates for the Republican and Democratic nominations. And I can't let this opportunity go by without mentioning a former student of mine, Eric Lesser, is on the ballot. And he's a graduate of Long Meadow High School, but more importantly, a graduate of the entire Long Meadow public school system. I think someone with his knowledge and background will be a great asset. That's my opinion, and I thought I'd voice it. Thank you.
Any other school committee comments? Okay. Seeing that, I'm going to rearrange the agenda so that Mr. Symington and Miss Allen might get home this evening. So, Mr. Symington?
Before Tim begins, I'd like to introduce Nicole Allen. She is the new principal of Glenbrook Middle School, and I don't know that you've met all the school committee members, so if this is the first time, she's here to support Tim in his staff development initiatives that he'll talk about, as well as to visit us. So thank you for coming, Nicole. And Tim, I'm extremely excited to hear about this. I know that when you got the internship this spring, it was an honor, one of 7 in the country to be awarded, and you've come back just raving about your experience. So. This is Tim Symington, social studies teacher at Glenbrook Middle School.
Tim, if you come on up here. And
is anyone get the projector?
Yep.
We're room 815 on the application.
815 or 815?
815.
Is that going on?
Okay, so if you don't mind, first standing. Can't teach sitting down at all. I just want to tell you a little bit about the George Washington Teachers Institute. It is held during the summer every year at Mount Vernon, and there are 4 institutes per summer, and each institute is for teachers from different parts of the country. So I went there for the last institute for 2014, and I was there with teachers from Massachusetts, Connecticut, New Jersey, and New York. And we ended up with someone from Oklahoma because she couldn't make one of the institutes. And I was one of 7 for the state of Massachusetts. And it was quite an honor. There were almost 200 applicants for 20 positions, or 20 spots. And from what I heard, most of the people I was with had been waitlisted last year. So I was able to, write the proper essay and said the right things, because I said, I know in May I got it. So I was very, very excited. The goal for the Teachers Institute is basically to introduce people to the character of George Washington as a leader, founding father of the United States, and the world that he lived in, because he was truly a unique individual. Okay, so I took several pictures. I got an iPhone over the summer just for this, so I was going crazy taking pictures. So that's the Mansion House. Okay, so it overlooks the Potomac River, and every night we were sitting out there on the piazza until about midnight. So once the public went home, the place became ours. It was a great experience going there, and that's a view from the other side across the Bowling Green. So every morning I went for a walk, and I got to actually see that every day, which was terrific. The estate itself is about 5,000 acres, which is less than it used to be. It used to be about 80,000 acres. Okay, and then just welcome teachers in the library. And then all over different parts of Mount Vernon, there's statues of George Washington. I just really like that one. Okay, and there's the other side of the mansion house. What you see at the very center was the original house, and when George Washington inherited it, he built up and then out. So what you're looking at is what he was actually in when he was there. Okay, so I'm just going to look for my folders here. I'm still trying to get, here we go. All right, Mount Vernon. Okay, so 2. Okay, so and here's the room where George Washington entertained, and they pretty much kept it exactly as he had used it, with the same colors and so forth. Very ornate marble fireplace, which George Washington never liked because he felt that it was too much. But it was nice seeing that and how they're trying to set that up. Here is the I'm sorry. This is the cupola. We were actually allowed to go into different parts of the mansion that they never let the public go into. And this was built to air condition the building because Virginia during July and August is horrific. When we were there, it was unusually cool, 49 degrees one morning, which was very comfortable. But they opened up the windows and let the air go through, and that was their way to air condition the place. Okay, let me get back to where it was. I apologize. Okay. Help. Joe? I was supposed to have a slideshow. How do I get that? Here we go. Oh, that's right. Okay, thank you. Okay, and it's just a picture of the piazza with all the teachers at dusk. And that's the size of the screen that we use in the actual lecture hall that we use. I really like that. Huge pictures. And I'm standing next to the original Rembrandt Peale portrait of George Washington. It's one of the more famous ones. A lot of copies have been made, but I saw the original and I was like, oh, I have to get my picture taken next to this one. So a lot of original paintings and artifacts were there, which was really nice to see. For his history major, this place was like a dream come true. This picture I really like. 2 women there are actually happy to be there.
I was going to say, they look very
They didn't know I was taking the picture. But this is inside the vault in the library, the Fred W. Smith Library at Mount Vernon. Behind 2 women there, Kelly and Megan, in those small white boxes, every single letter that George Washington ever wrote. The actual letter. So, we were inside this vault, is what they call it, where the air is purified and so forth, and they only let people in at certain times during the day because they've got to protect everything. And they explained how they have people use the actual letters. Everything is digitized now, so if someone wants a particular letter, they can pretty much say, all right, it's online, or it's in our digital library. But one time this researcher said he had to see the actual paper Washington used, because Washington being a surveyor, he had a protractor, and this researcher wanted to see if Washington actually made a strong enough indent to use a protractor the correct way. So they had to take the actual paper out and hold it up. He hasn't published his results yet, but everyone's curious about that. So I thought that was neat. Okay, there's the outside of the vault. Okay, so we just knew behind that were all the original books in Washington's library, all the original papers of the entire Washington family, all the correspondence, other artifacts, personal artifacts that Washington had. The ladies of Mount Vernon, which runs Mount Vernon itself, they got hold of an actual book that Washington had written in the margins on. Washington's only written in 6 books that people know of, and they belong to private collectors, and they were able to get this one particular book for $11 million, and it's stored inside the vault. Okay. And I have this picture because one of the things that we got to experience were character actors who would, be someone from the 18th century. So we got to meet George Washington's personal slave. We got to meet Martha Washington, and they all talk in character about different aspects of Washington's life. And then we had a whole workshop on how to use role playing in the classroom, which was really nice too. Okay, and that's just my morning walk, seeing the Mansion House. So I got to gloat about that to people. Okay, I took this picture because this is Mount Vernon in 1853, when the Ladies of Mount Vernon was actually established. Because if you look at the condition of the Mansion House and the piazza, there are ship masts holding the roof up. Once Washington died, the estate just kind of went into disrepair. And so by 1853, no one was taking care of the grounds, so Ladies of Mount Vernon was formed to purchase the property, and they've been controlling it ever since. So they've rebuilt certain parts of it, but the actual mansion house is almost entirely original. So they've fixed the ceiling and so forth, and they've actually purchased the entire coastline across from Mount Vernon because they didn't want private developers to change the view that Washington would have seen, so they bought the whole coastline along the Potomac River in Maryland. Nice to have one. Okay, let's see here. So I think I'm on this one, I believe. Okay. I was very interested to see that Washington was great statesman, great military leader. But if anyone asked Washington how he identified himself, he said, "I'm a farmer." And he was a brilliant farmer, and he invented different things regarding farming. What you're looking at here is a 16-sided barn that was used for harvesting wheat. And you put the wheat in a circle on one floor above grace, and then Washington had horses run over the wheat for like 45 minutes, which would make all the wheat sift through to the bottom, and then just sweep it up. No one else had thought of doing it this way. So they explained how that's set up. So I thought that was an interesting part of Washington's life. Washington needed to have something to do with all this wheat, so he made a distillery. And he's one of the top producing whiskey distributors in the country at the time. So no prohibition from Washington. Okay, once again, love that picture. Two great men together at last. Okay. I texted my wife that, and she was like, "Yeah, right." Okay. And then one evening, we had a guy in character playing a harpsichord, and he explained how music was used during Washington's day and how music was a political tool in many instances, which I found to be fascinating. He went over lyrics to some songs and so forth, but he explained how a harpsichord works. So it was nice to kind of get into that mindset of the 18th century. And there's just the Mansion House. I sent this to my local newspaper. They haven't printed it yet, but they will. Okay, and then let's see. Okay, and then I was in Washington, D.C., so I took a few pictures there. But we were actually able to go into the basement of Mount Vernon, which they never let people do. So we were all excited to have that opportunity. And inside the basement, which I thought was fascinating, there is, you can see some names engraved on the wall. That's from the Civil War. Civil War soldiers went down there and they were engraving their names. So there's like one whole part of the wall that has Civil War soldiers' initials, so forth, which was really kind of unique. And then another part is the actual hallway in the basement. There's another part of the basement where you can see the original foundation stones. I think I have here. No, I did that one. Let me go to 7. Okay. All right, so here is what the basement was used for was storing goods and so forth. And they also showed us that Washington had his study directly over the kitchen. He figured out a way to soundproof his study, and they showed how he did it. He had like a layer of wood and then plaster of Paris and wood and plaster of Paris. His entire study was completely soundproof over the kitchen in the Mansion House. Okay, and there's the actual foundation stones in the basement. Okay, and on the last day, we had the opportunity to do a wreath-laying ceremony at George Washington's tomb. This tomb was built in 1831 because George Washington was in a crypt in another part while they had to figure out how to build a proper tomb. And they open it up, and the sarcophagus you can see right there, almost in the center, that's George Washington. And next to him is Martha. Behind them is a doorway which leads to another crypt which has 25 members of the Washington Custis family. And I got the opportunity to actually go inside and stand next to the sarcophagus, which sounds ghoulish, but my heart was just like beating crazy. It's like, this is George Washington's remains. It's right there. So I thought that was really kind of special. Okay, so that's essentially my trip to Mount Vernon, and heck yeah, there's so much that I'm going to be using in the classroom, but I'm going to have you guys complete a little quiz right now. Okay, so if you want to turn on the lights, do that now. Okay.
Are we getting graded?
Well, you're not getting graded, but you have to scratch out the correct answer. And if it's correct, there's going to be a letter that shows up underneath. Okay? So, I don't know if you need to use your fingernail or a coin or something, but I figure this will be a nice way to introduce.
Wasn't Mount Vernon actually Martha's?
It was never Martha's. No, it had been in the Washington family. But Martha Washington brought the majority of slaves with her when George got the property.
I have more.
Here we go.
He's passing out money.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So give you guys a moment to scratch out the correct answers. Let's see if you get the word that appears. It should be pretty obvious. And then we'll go over our answers in a moment.
Guess what the name is? I don't like testing.
I'll bet as a teacher you gave them. Yes.
Sounds like a convenience store.
One of eight kids.
Yeah, there you go. Can we go over the answer? Everyone's got, once again, if it's correct, there's going to be a letter that shows up. So if you got a blank, that's not the real one.
Guess again.
There you go.
Do you need help?
Washington.
Correct answer is Lincoln.
Of course you did.
No
Trick
copying
question.
over there, Mr. Mazza. It's on your own paper.
I know, I'm struggling, I need one, but Sue's not there yet.
I know, I'm going the other way.
Sue?
This one.
I started at the bottom.
Do any of those role players come to schools? I know they used to have them in Massachusetts many years ago.
Most of the role players, they're local, so they're, Colonial Williamsburg is where a lot of them actually get their start. But they do go to schools in that area. But I did keep, they all had cards, so forth, and they kind of explained, there's a process to learning how to do it. I mean, I would love to do the same thing when I do my Civil War unit and be John Brown for a day or something like that. But we did, one guy came in as a surveyor in costume, and he showed us all the tools they're used in surveying, which was fascinating. And then a woman came in dressed up as Deborah Sampson. I don't know if anyone's ever heard of her. Deborah Sampson was a woman who actually dressed up as a man and fought for about a year. And then she was wounded, and the doctor was like, "Whoa!" What are you doing?" And she could have been executed. For impersonating a soldier, and luckily her commander said, "Well, that's why you never grew a beard." So she was in that character explaining like how women, were used in the Revolution. And then, William Lee, Washington's slave, Martha Washington. One time when we were eating, sometimes it got to be too much. We were eating dinner one night and some guy comes in costume and it's like, oh. And he was dressed up as George Washington's estate manager. He talked about, in a Scottish accent, talked about everything he did with the estate. So hearing like from a first person perspective what life was like was really interesting. If we could get any of them in, if any people are local, I highly recommend using them.
Yeah,
But they had to
we
answer
should look
questions
into
in
it, because I know
character.
the Boston area has some too, that are
Right,
from the
along the
Boston
Freedom Trail,
area.
you'll
Yeah.
see people dressed up.
Someone does Ben Franklin and,
And they have to be trained, they have to be trained to speak with the colloquial language of the time, which they say is the most difficult part of it. Because you'll just start to hear, different idioms and things like that, which was pretty interesting.
The public house.
Okay, George Washington was born in Virginia, okay. Rules of civility. Okay, Washington was big into proper behavior, right? One reason because he had a wicked temper, so he needed to keep it under wraps. So he memorized rules of civility. Taught Washington how to behave. Okay. As a surveyor, Washington was honest. Washington married Martha Custis, who was an extremely attractive widow, right, with a lot of money. Okay. 5, one of Washington's main cash crops was wheat. Okay. Washington and other colonists became unhappy with England because of taxes. Okay. We found out the reasons to why Washington became a revolutionary leader. Washington had claims to land extending to the Mississippi River. A lot of Virginians did. And when the British government passed the Quebec Act, it basically said all this land is not Quebec. So Washington was right like, all this land I was planning on making money off of. So he started being anti-British right there. Right. 7, after the revolution was won, Washington resigned from power. He would not take over as a military dictator, which he certainly could have. After the revolution, 8, Washington and the state delegates agreed on the U.S. Constitution by voting, and it was a big thing. We talked about Washington as president of the Constitutional Convention. 9, Washington was president of the U.S. for
8 years.
8 years, and then he stepped down. Washington was buried at Mount Vernon. And what does it spell?
Washington. Let me see.
Washington. There you go. So what was really interesting too is finding out about other founding fathers when we were there. We went into this library and there was like a bust of Ben Franklin and Alexander Hamilton and Washington and John Adams, Jefferson and Madison. And whenever any of the presenters talked about Thomas Jefferson, they almost wanted to spit on the ground, which I thought was interesting. It's like, well, what's wrong with Jefferson? They're like, oh, Jefferson, you couldn't stand Jefferson. Whenever they talked about John Adams, they kind of chuckled because they all felt John Adams was a comedian in a way. Hamilton was power hungry. So I think James Madison was the only one that people really liked. So it was interesting hearing all these points of view. But that's all I have for tonight, so thank you so much. If you have any questions about how I can use this knowledge, or every teacher should get this opportunity because it really, people get kind of bogged down with like details of tests and things like that, and this was like putting the passion back into the discipline, which is what I really loved about it.
So what do you see bringing back to your classrooms from this?
I've already used 2 lessons.
Oh, cool.
First day of school, picture of George Washington crossing Delaware, and that's a painting we completely dissected, and the way it was done, I thought it was a great way to learn students' names, so I've already used something in class with that. So I'm looking for other things to, not just George Washington, but 18th century life, and looking for other opportunities to use, like primary sources, things like that. So painting is something I've never used before. So I was really excited that it works as well as it did.
Can any of us access his letters online?
Yes, there is a digital library that is available for the public.
Wow.
And I can get that to you. Fred W. Smith Library is interesting library because it's off the grounds of Mount Vernon, and there's like a high fence with like spikes going all the way around. I'm like, why is there a fence like this here? It just seems so out of place. And then knowing that the vault is in there with so many valuable possessions of Washington, it made perfect sense.
Great.
One thing I do want to mention, I'm going to give you one paper. It's not a quiz or anything, but something I was introduced to, and I don't know if anyone's ever heard of this, it's called the Gilder Lerman Institute of American History. And you've heard of that, John. And it's, I think it's an opportunity for Glenbrook, probably starting out to get access to particular materials for teaching American history. So I've been talking with Nicole about registering Glenbrook as an affiliate school and seeing how that goes. And it will, they do like traveling exhibitions and so forth, and there's professional development opportunities for teachers through the Institute. They also do like graduate courses, things like that. So I want to see like where it can actually take Glenbrook and then extend it to Williams and even the high school or other schools. They take all levels. So I'm going to pass this out so you can see what I'm thinking about with Gilder Lerman for Glenbrook. See what exactly it's involved with.
Thank you. Thank you. Sounds like it was a great experience.
It was great. It was, you go away for a week and you're like, sometimes you're thinking, oh, I can't wait to go home. I miss everyone. I don't want to go home. But my son's like, find me a toy. And, or his Kathy, and gives to JR or Marcia. And you got one. Okay, but it was just a great experience. Now I'm going to look for, when's the Lincoln Institute? When's the Madison Institute? When's this? But I was just so happy I had the chance to do it. And I appreciate you letting me talk about it and brag about it.
Well, thank you. Thank you
Okay.
for sharing.
Thank
Thanks
you.
very much.
I look forward to seeing some of the work in the classroom. Sounds exciting.
Okay.
Now, you've just panicked him.
I'll have to use it now.
Thank you both very much.
Thank you for coming.
Alrighty, so back to the agenda. We will start with Marie's report, superintendent's report.
Okay. Just call it up. The schools all opened successfully. Susan, Mark Oldenburg, and I visited the various buildings and just saw the enthusiasm in the first couple of days. Teachers were very excited, classrooms looked great. It was a terrific opening. We were always one of the questions in the elementary school, how many left crying, left their children crying, not many, because that's a big transition, but by day 2 and 3, everybody was well adjusted, so we love to hear that. So it really was a great opening to school. The principals are all checking in and saying things are going well. We've had a couple of things to deal with, but that's typical of any opening of school. We've been looking at the budget, and one thing that came up, there are parking fees that are in the budget, and they can only be spent on the parking lot. They're about $37,000 in that line item. So I'm suggesting that the Finance Subcommittee look at that and perhaps give that to the town to put toward the high school, because it can be used for the paving of the parking lot, which was not reimbursable. And as you know, the high school project's running over right now, so that would be a way to help pay for some of the overages that they've experienced. The law states that when it was a parking fee, it can only be used for anything to do with the parking lot, paving, lines, plowing. So this would be a great use. It's been in the account since 2008, and we really can't use it unless we're going to do something with trees in the parking lot or lining or something. So that will go to Finance Subcommittee, and hopefully they'll make a recommendation and bring it back to you. The MCAS analysis continues. The central office team met with some data specialists that are at the Collaborative and DSAC, and we went through what we'd like to see in terms of a template for all the schools to use. They're working on that now. They're drawing up a sample. We're going to meet with the administrators a week from Wednesday to actually look at the template, get feedback, and actually go through what that looks like and how we can use some of that data. So we're going to be doing more in-depth training with how to analyze our information with administrators. Negotiations are going to begin this year. For people new to school committee, we're in the 3rd year of a 3-year contract, which means it's in the 3rd year you start negotiating for hopefully another 3-year contract. Kathy, Marcia, and I have been talking about getting some dates going. One thing that bogs us down once we get into negotiations is trying to get the lawyers from both sides available. So I'm trying to get us going on a weekly basis. What happened during our last negotiation is sometimes it took a month before everyone at the table could get together because we waited too long to put the dates out. So I'm trying to get us to book from the end of October through January because I think that would be enough time for us to wrap it up if we're consistent with it. We've been in touch with Liz Valario. Liz also suggested that school committee get together and to talk about what we want as our goals, and that would happen in an executive session. So I'm proposing, and I'm looking for your feedback on this, I'm proposing on September 22nd, our next meeting, that we have a 15-minute public meeting from 7 to 7:15, and then go into an executive session and work on our goals for negotiations. Because if we can begin to refine those, then we'll invite Liz in to talk to us and we can narrow them down. I also, Janet and I spoke with Liz today. It might be good to conference call with Liz that night too, an executive session, and just say, walk us through what we should expect, so everybody knows as your first-time members on here. I've been through several rounds of negotiations. I can answer a lot of your questions too, but she'll line up from her side what needs to be done. And we want to use our time judiciously because the bills add up pretty quickly. So I think we can do a lot of this getting prepared, so when we do bring the lawyers in, we're ready to do that in a cost-effective manner.
Now, Marie, one thing when we had talked about, and I had just looked at this, that meeting we had scheduled pupil service and assistant superintendent for learning reports. Shall we just move them back a meeting to put them with the MCAS and enrollment report?
I think this is more pressing so that we're ready for negotiations. So what we can do, Janet, is sit down with Diane
And figure out a date for.
fit those in,
Okay.
but we should flip those definitely.
And Sue, you won't be offended?
I guess not.
Okay. Thank you.
We don't want to move the MCAS because that's coming up in
No.
October,
Yeah.
but those two can be bumped back till the end of October, beginning of November.
November, okay,
So-
all right.
Maybe even combine it.
Excuse me?
Maybe even combine it.
So we'll look at the dates for that, but I didn't want to slight you nor Mark, so, with your reports.
I think we'll be okay.
Okay.
So we'll put that on our list.
Yes.
The staff development days, the opening 2 days of school, staff come back and there are always staff development programs. Typically, we have just 1 or 2 speakers and all of the staff go to hear them, or there's working on teams and doing a lot with their own district-determined measures. This year, the middle school staff development team proposed that we come up with a plethora of opportunities where staff self-selected. We had mainly teachers teaching teachers, but we also had vendors from the literacy, TLC, and from some other places. So here's the feedback. Susan put out a survey and gathered information from the teachers. We had 135 respondents from elementary and middle school. 91% were satisfied or very satisfied with the format. 87% were satisfied or very satisfied with the course offerings. Susan also went into detail of 13% that weren't satisfied. They may have been like the preschool teachers. They felt like there's something needed to be more specialized in their area, the psychologists. So we thought about that and we said, they're right. So next time we're going to try and address those people that raised the concern they'd like something more specialized in their area. 100% agree or strongly agree that the presentations were well organized and the presenters, and 100% agreed, strongly agreed that the presenters were knowledgeable. So we're very, very, very pleased with the feedback. It was a lot of work to organize. Kelly started it, Sue picked up, did a phenomenal job. Chris Collins and the middle school staff development team that really orchestrated what this would look like, and then the elementary teams picked up as well. So thank you to everybody. It was a lot of work, great teamwork, but a well-received program overall. That's it.
Okay. Any questions or comments for Marie?
So everyone's okay with that September 22nd format, to use that as executive session primarily? Okay.
After the 15-minute public session,
Yep.
will there be a read?
Because we would need to approve warrants and take
But
care of
will I-
any quick general business.
Well, anything, would it be a short one afterwards?
Short, I don't even know if you'd have to come, Joe. It will be the pledge, the mission, the warrants.
And then adjournment into
Right.
executive session?
All right, so you could probably have one night off. You haven't missed it, I don't think.
That's what I'm hearing there.
Yeah, it will just be superficial, quick business.
Got it.
All right, I don't have that much to report, just that with the start of the school year, I was invited to speak at Convocation on opening day for staff and faculty, which was nerve-wracking and exciting, and, an honor to speak with them and start off the school year. So that was exciting. It sounds like everything has been, running well with the schools, up and running, kinks being worked out. Other than that, we've been working on, the behind the scenes of trying to get stuff in motion, like you said, for negotiations. And then, publishing, which is tonight's meeting, is we're talking about both of our goals, school committee goals and superintendent goals. So we'll be going through that in a little bit. So Joseph, from the student's point of view, what do you have to report?
The school year started off for me and a fourth of school with freshman orientation, which is always one of my most favorite events. It's really interesting to see all the new students come and see the administration show off the amazing building and program that we offer. So a couple things I have to show. First of all, I would like to be the first to congratulate the boys varsity team for football on an awesome victory. So let's see here. And from our student section behind you, we had an awesome turnout. So I want to thank the whole school for their awesome school spirit, and Matt Frazier for an awesome photo. I'm sure everyone's seen our new logo, which is on everything. So it's really I really like it. I'll be updating mine. So just a couple things to start off the year. On the first day of regular school, all the students received our new handbooks, which through the student revision process, which is open in every, I believe it's April. We had some awesome new rules awesome changes to existing rules, which I think streamlined the current handbook to be very fitting with the new building. So those were some good changes there. I'd like to remind everyone, because it is the season, I've been fielding a lot of questions from my fellow students, just about parking, and everyone remembers last year we published a report on parking. So if you have any questions, it's available on Mr. Dunkerley's website, in-depth data about our school and how it compares. The senior class play fast approaches. November 20th, 21st, and 22nd. We'll be performing High School Musical, which is Disney's play. We have our two directors and our assistant director in place, and auditions are being held this coming week. We're very excited about this, and hopefully the whole school's gonna turn out. Everyone's seen the new website, but there's a new addition to the new website I'd like to bring your attention to. If any parents or students are wondering about class events, we've revamped the way that we broadcast those dates. So right on the school's website, if you can go over to students, and then it brings down an option for the 4 classes, senior, junior, sophomore, freshman. And right there you get a very cool link to a Google Doc, which has all of the dates that you might need: fall apparel sale, fall dues drive, senior class play, High Meadows, senior prom, and LHS's graduation ceremony.
You might want to add the date in your graduation ceremony.
What's that?
You might want to add the date in your graduation ceremony.
Oh,
Just saying.
thank you. I didn't even notice that. That is June 11th.
I'll mark my calendar now.
I will update the Google Doc as soon as we can.
Thank you.
And we've been branding everything, as you can see at the top, with our senior slogan, Make History. Other than that, the school year got off to a great start. Only thing I've been hearing, and I'd like to just keep the committee's attention on the building. Temperature, climate control has been an issue, especially the first week when we had the issue in this wing, but obviously that's been resolved. But not to an extreme extent, but a moderate extent in the academic wing. I think the community could still benefit from more education on how the air management system works best. In terms of, I remember from our tour, they went over a couple of things that I think a lot of people aren't aware of, in terms of windows being closed, doors being closed, things like that, to keep the system running at its most efficient and effective status. And other than that, everything's going great. Ms. Estradios, our new assistant principal, did a great job at our freshman orientation on our opening day. She's been to a lot of student events, and I continue to wish her the best of luck in her first year. And that's it.
Thank you.
The building committee, we did ask the architect and the contractor to give us there's actually a list of what you should and shouldn't do with the HVAC system. So I will check with Tom Landers to make sure he got that, because they were going to review it with the staff opening day. But you're absolutely right, because if windows or doors are open, it throws the system. So I'll check to see that might help.
And they might have, I wasn't there. so I
How
wouldn't
hot
know.
was it in the classrooms during the
It
extreme
probably,
heat?
obviously, it was most noticeable the first week, but like I said, it's been resolved, because the BTC students would come over here and get pretty hot.
Very hot.
But, yeah, and you guys.
But
have
in the
same
academic
system.
wing, how was
Academic
that?
wing, probably more just because lots of students, at the same, coming in, and, it's hot outside. But, just a little, not like unbearable, but just a little high temperature. And like I said, because just from our tour, I think, and they might have gone over it at staff events I was in. And that's it. And anyone else have any questions?
Any questions for Joseph? All right. Finance, oh, sorry,
I
Liz.
forgot to say 2 things.
Absolutely, please.
One is I just got a reminder for the LEAF event, November 1st at Twinells. And the second is on September 15th, which is a week from today, at the high school, we have Chris Herron coming to the high school to speak about his experience as a one-time or a professional basketball player, and his struggle with drugs and alcohol, and his experience and his comeback. And it's very worthwhile to go. So I recommend everybody coming and even reserving tickets there.
Go ahead, Joseph.
And one last thing. So we have yet not had our first school committee student advisory council meeting, and so once that happens, we'll be presenting to you our full list of 2015 ideas, things that we're going to be working on. But one thing I'm kind of excited and more of something that I'll be working on is a lot of, especially with the election that happened at the end of last year, when the students returned me here. A lot of people didn't know exactly what the school committee was or how it worked, and that continued to be a question I got at the beginning of this year. So one idea I've had, and I'm going to be working on, is putting together a website, nothing in depth, but just a general overview, kind of like a how it works of Longmeadow Public Schools, explaining the school committee and the different and various student representation bodies, like our class officers and things that happen at middle school, and throw that up on a website, so just in case people have questions, they can go and see like quick frequently asked questions about exactly what the school committee is, what the class officers do, things like that. And then in the next couple of meetings, we'll be presenting our full list of things that we work on this year.
I can't wait to see that list, Joseph.
Thank you very much.
All right, John, Finance Sub?
Yes, Finance Subcommittee met on September 5th, and we discussed, we got some information on special education, discussed the fiscal year 2014 revolving account with an update, and the latest information on our the food service meal charges. But we didn't vote really on anything, so there's not much more to report. It was pretty much a routine meeting. Did you want to add anything?
Did you want to add anything to that?
John covered everything.
Okay.
That's about it. Okay, thank you.
Any questions for Finance Sub right now? Okay. Other subcommittees, I know that School Building Committee hasn't met. They usually meet the third Thursday of the month. Is that correct, Marie? Third Thursday? Okay.
School building, yes.
School Building. Anything legislatively, John?
No, except to remind everyone about the primary tomorrow. It's very important that we get maximum participation.
Okay. Liz, anything from Green?
We have not met, but I would say that the town recycling station area down on Ponside Road is looking for bookcases, because they're restructuring their the swap shop. So if anybody has any sturdy bookcases they'd like to donate.
Okay.
Good to know.
Operations Sub, you've scheduled a meeting, I think, right? Or in the process of scheduling?
working on it, yeah.
Okay. Seal, anything yet?
Mark is meeting with, he's met with the president, he met last week, I believe, and they're organizing a meet and greet so that he can greet the parents of SEAL. So you'll hear more about that, and I'll let you know, Katie, once I have a date.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anything from Lower Pioneer Valley?
No, meeting next week.
Next week, okay. I know Policy Subcommittee has a meeting scheduled. Liz and Katie, I know you're on the Joint Energy.
Actually, it's wrong on there. It's me and Katie. And me and Liz.
You and Liz, I'm sorry, not,
No, it's wrong on the line, too.
oh, okay, so Joint Energy needs to be Michael, Kim, and Liz.
Yeah,
Okay, Diane?
we haven't had a
Thank you.
chance to meet.
Okay. And Tom, I know we had the energy audits done in the buildings. Have we gotten any reports back on that?
We have not. I conversed with Mr. Chapman from Advanced Energy Group, and he was working on the 2 middle school reports, and he'd hoped to have them completed by the end of this week.
Okay,
So he said he'd follow up and let me know and schedule an appointment to come in and review them.
great. Okay. The presentation of the school committee goals. Oh, I'm sorry, did I miss you?
No. Marie, I know we spoke during school committee goals about technology curriculum committee. but
Right.
I know that we're just getting back in the swing of things, but have they sort of?
We haven't even started that yet,
Okay.
but it's on our radar screen.
Okay.
We won't miss you, don't worry.
I noticed one on here, if we're talking about that for a second, that I wasn't really aware of. It's called Enrollment Study?
That's going to be after, in October, Marie is going to be presenting both MCAS data and enrollment data.
Oh, okay, I
And so
remember that.
after that information, we'll look at the distributions between the schools and see about if there's a need to redistrict, if there's equity, all of that. But that won't get up and running and started until after we get some final data, which we generally wait till after October 1st for the dust to settle.
And that's when we'll get, I know Liz asked about pupil count or something
Right.
recently. That's when we'll be able to tell how many kids per school compared to elementary schools.
Right. Numbers per school, numbers per grade level, any increases, decreases in enrollment.
Okay, just being a parent at Blueberry, it's very overcrowded.
But the good news was we didn't have to go to any classrooms on a cart.
No, I noted, I saw the meeting last week, or 2 weeks ago. I was very happy to hear that. I'm just worried about next year and the cafeteria and the parking lot and the PE, the gym that's now split in half for some reason. And I'm just worried about the school being overcrowded when I know they have a lot more kids than the other two, and we have room at the other two.
Right. And that's all of what's
So-
going to be addressed by the committee after we get numbers.
Okay,
Okay?
just checking.
No problem. All righty, so for school committee goals, which everybody has in their packet, these were done at our meeting, we had a retreat meeting in July. Over the
July.
summer.
July.
Where a school committee sat and revisited each of the categories, each of 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, some categories, selected our goals, and then created milestones of how we would measure whether we were meeting those goals, completing those goals or not. So I'm hoping that everybody had a chance to review them. If anybody had any corrections or questions or concerns, now would be the time to bring those up. Anything? And one thing that we are gonna do a little bit differently this year is make sure that after we vote on these and approve them, that they will be posted on our website to make sure that they're available for the public to see, so that they know what we are working on, and what our subcommittees are working on throughout the year. So that, and then we will be looking at them periodically throughout the year to make sure that we're on track. Yes, Joseph?
I have a question on, I don't know how to, on the school committee goal, C, technology. For 6 or 7, just for the side note, Katie Gerard will be school committee representative on school committee reporting back. Is that for 6 or 7?
You mean for Katie as the representative reporting back?
Yeah, is that's,
That would be for number 7.
okay, I
Yes.
wanted to make sure I didn't miss a
Yes.
one-on-one,
No.
one-to-one
It should be
committee
actually number 8.
existing.
We have 2 7s.
Right, we have 2 7s, that's right, so that
Sorry, I
should be
missed
number 8. So Katie will be our representative that's going to sit on the technology curriculum committee, and then be able to report back to us. Thank you for asking. Anybody else?
I have a question about, well, I guess it could fit under facilities, maybe under operations. We had a private group of citizens come in to talk about installing a artificial turf football field. And I don't see that reflected anywhere in our goals. They asked us to vote in support of their program. The vote, I believe, was 6-1. And then they proceeded to tell the select board that they were going to raise the money for this by themselves. I believe I'm
Right,
quoting what was said.
I
And I'm just wondering, are we going to get stuck with the bill of taking care of this thing? Because there is maintenance involved. Or are they going to set aside up front the amount of money they're going to pay for the field, plus establish a maintenance fund?
It was my understanding from the proposal that they were not only raising the funds for the purchase and installation of the field, it was also to cover the equipment necessary for the maintenance. And then they would also have a reserve fund that would be added to annually so that when replacement needed to take place, funds would be available for that. But I believe that they had come to us looking for our endorsement, just like they had to other Parks and Recs programs, and then they presented to the select board, who would have the final decision on accepting or rejecting their proposal, and from what I understand, at their meeting, they tabled the discussion. So I'm not sure where that goes, that would be up to them and the select board at this point.
Okay. Well, just as a matter of historical interest, several years ago, a group of concerned parents wanted to have Friday night football games, and that required the installation of the lights that are currently in place. That was put in by private money. The bill for the electricity, though, comes out of the school budget. And the school committee at that time did not think that was an appropriate use of the tax dollars that we collect to have Friday night football games illuminated and other games illuminated. And I would just like to let everyone be aware of that. That's what happened in the past. And once they get their foot in the door and they sell you the vacuum cleaner, they don't tell you about how to empty it or how to pay the electric bill to operate it down the road, to use that as an analogy.
Right.
And I'm just a little bit concerned about that. We're looking at some very tight money issues. I mean, collective bargaining is going to be a major point this year. And getting into a discussion about the middle school building update and implementation, we don't have a lot of money to play with.
Yeah, well noted, John. Michelle?
Okay.
I think they mentioned the maintenance costs for the turf field is a lot less than what we're paying to maintain the fields now. Like if you take out the mowing, the fertilization, the watering, all of that kind of stuff, I think it's a lot less, so we'd be saving money in that.
Well, I believe those were the claims that were made. I don't know if any empirical evidence was brought forward to substantiate those claims. Because one of the things you have to do with artificial turf is water it down, because the temperature gets to over 150 degrees in the summertime. So we're being told a lot of things are going to happen, but, there's no evidence to support any of the claims. I just offer that as a comment.
Right, and I think, right now, it's sitting in the hands or on the table, so to speak, of the select board. So until, we hear something from them, and Michael is our liaison with the Artificial Turf Committee, so I'm sure he would be involved in that, with further discussions. So, definitely that's noted, and you're right in terms of budgeting, so we will definitely keep that on the radar. Tom?
I believe it's, the select board will be taking it up at their next meeting.
Oh, are they?
I believe
Okay.
the athletic director is scheduled to go to answer questions regarding health and injuries
Okay.
for
So perhaps
student athletes.
we need to remind Michael to try to go to that meeting as well. All right, any other comments or changes on our goals for the year?
I don't know if it
Bless you.
goes on the communications portion about the forums that we had talked about, including some parent forums for, we've actually over the year talked about quite a few different ones.
Right.
Park Common Core information sessions, a parent forum to give parents good direction on parent-teacher conferences, as well as having just general guest speakers come in about 3 times throughout the year, like the basketball guy that's coming in, but we had talked about others. And I think Maria asked us to send her a list of some that we would recommend. So I'm just wondering if that somewhere on there, is that something that we would put on there, some sort of?
So I have 2 on my goals. I have the Park MCAS Common Core presentation and how to have a good parent conference. Chris Collins is going to do that for all elementary and middle school parents.
Okay.
So did you want to add others onto communications subcommittee, Kim?
Yeah, I don't know how to get them out there, but I know other districts will bring in doctors or psychiatrists or, I don't know, professionals within, out there that might help parents just with things going on in it's kind of similar, I think, to this basketball speaker. One that comes to mind is that Dr. Rao that talks about how boys learn differently than girls. That was we talked about that a little bit in the spring last year, and I don't know if we would do something like that. I know we talked about it last spring.
Right.
I had emailed Marie a couple of people, and it kind of has fallen off of our radar.
Usually PTOs will initiate a lot of that. We do have the Shelley Warren's position at the high school, so I think that a group could meet with Shelley to talk about maybe expanding the number of programs that she offers, because she is a district-wide person, but she works primarily out of the high school, so we could certainly talk to her and send some suggestions her way.
Who's Shelley Warren?
Is it Shelley Warren? Yeah.
Substance abuse
So
coordinator.
maybe,
Substance abuse, right, and so any proactive work could come out of that. And I know that Patty Gill and some others were interested in meeting around that as well.
so
Celia's
perhaps,
working on it too. They have a list of people to
I
working
know.
with other.
They were trying to bring in a doctor last spring that fell through. That's when Marie and I started talking about it, and she had asked for some names of some people and thought maybe the district could pull some people in, but
so
we'll go
Kim,
back.
maybe adding a number 4 onto communications goals of, working with appropriate staff members or appropriate,
I'm not sure that's really the role of school committee to be doing that. I think we could talk to Shelley about setting up a group to do it, but I'm not sure it's really our job to be running these programs. I think that if you have enough that's on your plate and to do that, but I think you could certainly get Shelley, get a subgroup and have representation from school committee on there. Because the suggestions were good, and I agree, it would be a wonderful format to have more proactive training, because we're looking at the reactive, when kids are on drugs, and the programs we brought in have been, the program last year and the program this year are talking about addicts and recovery, so that we're trying to be a little proactive, but I think we could get a group doing that. So maybe the communications goal is to
see if we can get Shelley to spearhead that.
Okay, so maybe under number 3, continue to develop positive relations within the community. Put, another subletter of working with Shelley Warren and, to expand.
I mean, it is something more than, I mean, the basketball, the guy that's coming in next week is
Yeah,
is a
and
good-
that's coming from Shelley's group too.
Broad.
But
a
she
broader
hasn't
sense.
really looked at the elementary and middle. I think since she's been hired, she's been focused at the high school, and they've been using her well. But it doesn't mean that we shouldn't expand that role and say, we really need a couple of programs at the elementary and middle as well. So I will talk to her about that, I'll meet.
I believe Ms. Warren also runs a class.
She does.
Called Peer Leadership,
Yep.
and that's obviously exclusive at the high school, so it's another thing she does.
Okay. So then with that being said, we won't change communications goals on our school committee goals. Is that,
Were you gonna add an F or no?
that's what I'm asking. Are we
Okay.
adding an F or are we not adding an F?
Or is that something, I don't know.
It's a reminder, so.
Okay. So adding an F to say work with Shelley Warren and others
To expand.
to expand
Pairing.
outreach programs. Okay, so adding in letter F, saying to work with Shelley Warren and other staff to expand outreach programs. Would that be good? All right. So, got it. So with that, could I have a motion to approve this 2014-15 school committee goals as written and amended?
Second.
You want to propose it? I can't
Or-
propose.
No.
Oh, Liz, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Liz, John second. All those in favor? Okay, unanimous. Did you have a question, or you're just raising
I just didn't
again?
know if she saw
Okay.
me. Sorry.
I'm like, you're confusing me there.
Sorry.
Alrighty, so I think before Marie presents her goals, one thing that I wanted to share with everyone on the committee briefly is DESC has changed the way teachers, principals, staff are all being evaluated, and superintendents fall under that category as well. So this upcoming year, there's going to be a different tool for Marie's evaluation, which I've put part of it in here for you, just to get an idea so that you can, and I love how they start. Skip pages 1 and 2 until after you've done pages 3 through 8. I'm like, great, we're already going backwards. But what it does is, pages 1 and 2 are your overall evaluations, which come out of the following pages. And so what they suggest and what, bless you, and what we worked on was Marie coming up with a professional practice goal, a student learning goal, and district improvement goal. Now, other things that had been in her goals previously, things like meeting with principals and administrators on a regular basis and communication and that, there's a separate section for those. So when we'll be doing Marie's evaluation, we will be evaluating her separately on the 3 individual goals that she has chosen. And then we do an overall evaluation on Standard 1, which is instructional leadership, Standard 2, which is management and operation, Standard 3, which is family and community engagement, and Standard 4, professional culture. And when it gets time to do evaluations, there are rubrics that explain what would constitute a proficient versus a needs improvement versus an exemplary versus unsatisfactory. So just to know that when Marie's presenting her goals to us tonight, it's not that we're not going to get a chance to have input on, is she managing conflict or is she communicating with families? That's just in a separate format for this next year than how we've been accustomed to doing it. So I just didn't want anybody to be thrown by thinking, oh gosh, we're not gonna get to evaluate her involvement with the community anymore because it's not written down in her specific goals. Does that make sense? Okay, so now to your goals.
Okay. All superintendents throughout the state are using the format that I'm presenting to you tonight. I've added far more than are required and that most people do because there are several moving targets that we're really trying to hit. So let me start off with my professional practice. We're at A15.
Yes.
There we go. The very first is professional practice, and this is a goal that there we go. The goal is to improve something that we're doing that enhances the learning experiences for all of us. And one of the goals that we've been working on is classroom observations. We've been doing the walkthroughs and talking about what's going on in classrooms. In the past year, we focused primarily on literacy, the new programs that were out there. And we looked at some math classrooms too. In the coming year, I want to talk about developing and implementing assessment tools so that when we go in the observations, we not only have a target of, I want to see a literacy class, but this is what we're looking for when we visit those classes, so that we're all looking for the same things in our follow-up discussions. We're able to talk about that. We'll look at things like student engagement, where the kid's involved. We'll look at what the challenge was going on. We'll look at the use of technology. So we'll have criteria that we're looking for as we go through the walkthrough. And then when we come back together again as administrators, we can talk about that. The goal is to enhance our eyes so that we're seeing the same things when we walk in classrooms, and as we're bringing back information for how we're progressing on district goals as well as progressing with raising student achievement. So the first thing is developing and implementing assessment tools for classroom observations, schedule and visit all schools with appropriate administrators, and identify targeted purpose for the visit. So I'll be able to show you what the tools look like, give you a list of the visits, and tell you what exactly we were looking for as we went on our visits. Any questions on that? Okay. Student learning. Our goal A is to increase student achievement. Of course, that's what we're about. We really want to make sure that all kids are thriving in the district, that they're achieving at high rates, and that we're reaching every single child. The very first thing is to implement Inform. It's a data management system. We've purchased it this year, and the administrative team has already had their first round of training. With Inform, we'll be able to store all the data on students. It will come from AimsWeb, BASS, MCAS, and they can put on things with DDMs and more, so that when a team of teachers is looking at a student's progress, you'll be able to get that information rapidly so that you can make some good judgments. As well, AimsWeb will be given 3 times a year, so when you use this tool, you can see whether or not students are actually progressing by the time they get to mid-year. So the training and use of that is going to be critical. We also need to make sure that we're downloading status so that we know where kids, where they're being serviced or not serviced. We are training the administrative team, and we've already provided the training in July. The next piece is to bring in experts, which we've already done with central office, so that we're looking at training on MCAS analysis. We will have an October meeting with administrators to assess AimsWeb, BASS, ACT, SAT data. And we're going to have the principals report to each other at meetings so that they can observe each other, how they're reporting back, what kind of information they're finding useful, what progress students in their building are making. We'll structure our January meeting to assess, again, AimsWeb and BASS data to see student improvement. And in June, we'll look at the results to see if we reached the goals that we wanted to. We also, this is the first full year of AimsWeb implementation, so we want to make sure that this is an effective tool and that it's being administered correctly to all the children.
Has it been given this year? Has it been started at least?
Not yet, and that's on our agenda for Wednesday to set the time frame, because all the schools should be taking it at the same time so we can compare school-to-school data as well as classroom-to-classroom data. So that window should probably be the last week in September, first week in October. We want to do that soon. The teachers know it's coming, they're expecting it, but the principals just need to coordinate when they do that, but it should be soon. The DDMs, the district determined measures, they are assessment tools that are created by our own teachers and used in every subject across the board. We've been working on those for several years. The state now mandates that we all have them in place and that we're using them this year as well. So if you go into a social studies class, you should see the same assessment tool being used at every single middle school social studies class. When you look at Algebra 1 at the high school, all the students will be assessed in the same way to make sure that they are mastering what they should. So that implementation will also be happening this September. Susan's been compiling it. She's working with the state on getting them approved. We have to have our plans submitted. So all that's underway right now. Goal B is to develop schools' plans to raise student achievement. So we're looking at having the principals report back, look at the data, and come to school committee as well as administrative team and say, what is your plan for raising achievement in your school? Looking at your data, what are you going to do? We have the district goals, but what's going to happen uniquely at your building? And we'll know that by October, because they should have a complete analysis of the MCAS done, as well as look at the Ames web to see how kids are operating and how close to grade level. There'll be reports on the data analysis in February, and again as well in June, so that you're hearing as well whether or not kids are making progress. One thing that I worked on this summer was homework guidelines. We're in the midst of doing this. One question that's come up throughout the years is that there's not continuity classroom to classroom, never mind school to school, and what the homework expectations are. And one thing that I wanted to do was to see the kids prepared for college. Our end result is that these kids are career and college ready. And when they go to college, they have to anticipate doing a couple of hours of work a day, and they have to be independent. So our goal is by the time they're out of high school that they're doing 2.5 plus hours, and they're able to manage their workload. So if you work backwards with that and make it incremental, so that we wanted to make sure, starting with elementary, that there was homework each night, but also that children are reading every single day, because even though we assume people know that, we should make that assumption. So we're going to make it clear to parents, they should be reading every day. You should be doing letter recognition of flashcards, and you should be doing math facts. And then we took that and we developed the homework so that the expectations are raised annually. The principals have now gone to their staff. I have feedback from the principals, so we're going to make adjustments to it. I will make those adjustments, go back to the administrative team, get the final okay, and at that point, I'll bring it forward to school committee, and we'll have that out in classrooms in October. So that should bring more continuity to the district as well. Goal D, explore online learning opportunities for students at the high school. This is an area of particular interest to me. I think that we need to be pushing more online learning, more experiences. This is a many-stepped process. Tom Landers has been researching different venues that we could use for some of our students. We also have Kathleen Epal at the high school has worked with Middlebury College, and they have online Chinese, which would be a start, as well as many other languages that we don't offer that kids could take online. So that what we need to do is to be ready to have the equipment. We've purchased equipment and we have it ready in the library should we be able to move forward with this. We have officially made Long Meadow a BYOD building, bring your own device this year, so that students can have a computer at any time. They have them available at the ratios 2 computers per 3 students at the high school right now, but if students can bring their own, it means we'll be definitely a one-to-one facility. I've met with Tom and we've talked about different vendors. We have options open. We need to work with the LEA to bargain, because it's a bargainable. If we're offering the same courses that are taught in school, then we have to bargain it. If they're outside of the schedule, for example, if a student's required to take 5 courses and this is a 6th course, like Chinese would be, and the agreement we've made with the teachers is that it will be a 6th course, and also it will be a second language for now. But we have work to do in terms of bargaining this to move this forward. I think that there are unbelievable online opportunities for students that could open doors for a lot of our kids, and we'll start at the high school and then we'll move that down. But we have a lot of work to do in terms of getting this agreed upon. What does it look like? What can we bring in this year, and what's it going to look like as we roll it out over the next 3 years? So we have worked. I've already had meetings that started last September with the World Language Department at the high school, and those meetings will continue as we look to introduce Chinese. If all goes well with our discussions with the LEA, then we should be able to introduce that this fall, which would be very exciting.
Can I ask a question? When did we vote to promote Mandarin Chinese?
We didn't.
Then why are we doing it?
Why would you need to vote on that?
Oh, I mean, there are some who see Spanish as an important language for the southern hemisphere.
Spanish
Western
is offered
hemisphere.
here.
Well, we offer that, but if you're gonna talk Chinese, don't you have to really get down into the middle school? And are we prepared to go that route? That means we're gonna bump French? Or are we gonna add?
I think you add. I think ideally, to start with, all the top districts in Massachusetts offer Chinese. So we're lagging in that area. In my own opinion, we should be offering Farsi, Chinese, and maybe a couple of other languages, because if you take, number one, at the National Defense Department, two of the top languages recommended are Mandarin and Farsi, that they're nationally needed for our security as well as the business world. When you take a look what's happening in the business world, the number of kids going into international studies, particularly with the Chinese, it's become really coveted and opens doors to colleges when they have these Asian languages or the Middle Eastern languages that are on their resume. I think the third thing is it's a very different culture than European culture or any of the European descendants. So when you're looking at that, it's important, as our students are going to be leaders in the business world, that they understand different cultures, how you interact, what that's like. So it's not only the language, it's the culture. But I think in order to be a world-class high school, we really need to start looking at this and moving in that area. So, but I think I'd be happy to do a presentation, show you some stats from around the state and see what's happening.
Farsi is the language of the Iranians, right?
It's one of them.
It's principally of Iran.
And there were several other countries.
We're not even at the point of having diplomatic relations.
But there are several other countries where Farsi would be understood in those countries as well.
Well, for the record, I have some concern about what China is doing to our economic society. It's undermining it. With manufacturing jobs moving by the millions to the Chinese, where they have low pay, no labor unions, no protection for workers, no environmental standards to speak of. But, that's the model that American businessmen are pushing. And I'd just like to raise a flag about that.
Well,
I wonder if it is that wonderful.
I'd rather see our future leaders partners with the Chinese, so they're working on global issues, they're working on pollution, they're working on ethics and human rights. I think to ignore it and to not have our students able to present themselves and communicate effectively, it's going to further put wedges between the relationships of two countries, and as they call China, the sleeping giant. We will be their partners or they will move without us. And I hope that we build a generation of leaders that will build solid partnerships with the Chinese.
It's one of the classes that I see in the elementary school. They have those after school or before school classes with its I even just in the 2 years that I've been here, they have added multiple Chinese classes. I mean, the kid around the corner from me is in second grade. He's been taking Mandarin for 2 years already, privately, not even with them. It's not, if your parent is in the business world, their child is very, they're looking for their children to take Mandarin at young ages. And I'm glad to see us have it at the high school at least, and
It's a start.
In our school district.
I personally would like to see it move down. I'm a very strong proponent of world language at the elementary school because they have the ear early on. We have several issues expanding the schedule, whatever. But down the road, whether we could offer that online or whether we could do something, because it would be great to make that a long-term goal. But if we can start with the high school, see how the online goes, we can definitely then move it to the middle school, and then we can talk about elementary, how to make that an option for kids that are ready for it at elementary as well. So. But if we can get this going, work out the issues we need to with the LEA, I think it's a place to start. I think the other thing is to look at, I think the teachers would be concerned that we're offering something online that would jeopardize their jobs. And that's not what we're trying to do. There's no one here, we need our teachers, we'll always need our teachers. We're not looking to replace them with online learning. We're looking to expand opportunities. Over the past 4 years that I've been here, there have been students that have been taking online courses. They're usually accelerated math that we don't offer, or we have someone that's homeschooled for a medical reason or something like that. So they've been very unique cases, but I think we need to broaden this so that any student can take it if they want to. Joseph?
Just start with, so Farsi as a Persian language, and so not only Iran, but it also stretches into pockets of Iraq and Pakistan, and the majority of Afghanistan also is Farsi. And also just for the middle school to high school conversation we're having, Latin is offered at Lemon High School, and a lot of students do take it, not offered at the middle schools, and that doesn't, it's not really a problem that it's not offered at the middle school. So there is a precedent to offering a language at the high school level and without the middle schools.
Right, and we have Explore blocks in the middle school. There's no reason that students couldn't decide to do an online course rather than reading or doing homework. So we have a lot that we can be doing. So this is a year to really look at this and move forward. And I think for me, this is a really exciting goal because we need to start keeping abreast with what's happening out there and to keep making sure that we're on the cutting edge of what top-notch schools do, including our high school. We have a phenomenal high school, but I think our students would be extremely excited. I know there are already a couple of students asking they'd like to sign up for this, so that they're just waiting for us to provide the opportunity.
And I can just add, with having a student who just graduated and has started college, I was amazed at, at our new student orientation, it was, well, how many students have taken, AP or IB classes? And most all of the kids raised their hand. But then it was also, how many of you have taken college credit classes, college level classes in high school? And at least half of the students raised their hand. And so, sitting back and thinking, well, gosh, we're one of the best schools out in Western Mass, and, Mass is ranked the highest in the United States in terms of education. I'm like, I think, we've got some room to grow. So, well, I'd love to see it start with languages, and understand that that's your primary goal, but in looking at what else we can do for some of our students who will be our future leaders.
And let me be clear, the vendors we're looking at are subjects across the board. They're not just language. Middlebury, we've decided, rather than going with the collaborative or Ingenuity, there are a couple of other choices, but the languages, Middlebury is by far, it would be, you can take either a high school or a college level course with them, but they're renowned throughout the country and they have a huge online learning program. But we're definitely looking at math and science and other opportunities as well.
Which I think would benefit students, and their families, if knowing that they can go into college and opt out of, some basic courses, which saves a ton of money on the college end bill. And our students, there are plenty of our students out there who are up to that challenge.
Yep, they are.
So
They are.
I look forward to seeing how far we can get with this
It'll be
one.
an exciting year, but I want to make it clear, it's a lot of work, we have a lot of hurdles to make it happen, but I've talked already with Kathy and Marcia, we're going to have some good conversations, we have the MTA rep coming in, so we're ready to move forward with this, so. But I'll keep you posted as we move forward. Then as we bring on online courses, the next thing is how they're graded, are they part of GPA or not? And the high school teachers have pretty strong opinions about that because you're losing control of what the standard is if you have someone outside grading. But as you said, the colleges are just as happy to see the transcript, and they make them part of the package when they apply. But we want to clarify that because people will ask that question. Is it part of the CUME? Is it part of the GPA? Or is it just something that's a bonus when they apply to the colleges? So,
Joseph?
On the note about the GPA, I wanted to say, I think maybe if we are going to look at that, we might want to also just like a holistic review of the GPA system, not system, but the way that different classes are evaluated, what counts, what doesn't, how things are weighted, if you're going to look at that.
I'm not going into that.
No,
If it's a concern, I think it would be a good thing to bring to Mr. Landers.
No, not a concern. I was just saying, if you're going to look at it, maybe just review.
I'll take a look at it.
That's what I'm saying.
But that would be a huge undertaking, too. But that would be really a high school issue, too, because you need the high school teachers on there. I'll take a look. We can
Okay.
talk offline about that.
Yeah, no
See what you're
concerns
thinking.
present.
Okay, good. All right, third, they ask us to do district improvement, and they ask us to pick one goal. I put a couple under here as well. I think we all agree it's time to begin the process for the middle school, so we want to make sure that we're on track with that. So communication's going to be important in the fall. We'll keep bringing it up at meetings. I'll go to the select board and let them know that we're thinking of moving forward. We'll communicate with the press. We'll file the SOI, meet the deadline to make sure that everything's in. We also will take people, and we talked about having a small group go and meet with the MSBA or do a conference call so that we know what their timeline is, their process, because as we move forward, the questions people are going to ask us is, when does the shovel go in the ground? How much is it going to cost at this point? And the MSBA has very strict timelines. Once you get approved with an SOI, it's a quick turnover before you have to have the money for the feasibility study, and then you have to have that done with a certain amount of time. But it's like a 5 to 6 year process before the school's actually built. But there are some really tight timelines, and we have to agree that we can meet those, and we have to talk to the select board and make sure that they're on board as well. And then we'll share that timeline with you. And then the goal B, we had talked about this, a new curriculum goals for technology. Particularly of interest is the park, the needs to make sure that the technology at the elementary matches what kids are expected to do on the park test. That should also raise expectations across the board, because we're putting in skills at much lower grades than we have in the past. So I will appoint the Technology Curriculum Committee. School Committee does have a rep on that. We'll set up meetings and develop agendas for meetings. Align it with park, and we'll again examine the online learning opportunities. Plan summer work to write the new curriculum and make sure it's implemented next year.
And when do we expect to hear from the state whether they're adopting park or not?
The end of this current year.
Okay. The end of 2014, not the end of the current.
2014-15.
The end of this school year?
Yes,
Okay.
academic year.
Thank you.
And then goal C, increase communication throughout the district by creating and sharing 3 newsletters. So the newsletter, and then the parent forums as well. And I think maybe I could add to that, goal C is to get a chairperson of a committee up and running and delegate that to a chair, that there could be more forums, some of which Kim's speaking to. But I will contact Shelley and see if I can get a committee together and that can work on some of those. It shouldn't be a lot of work to do this, and I think it would be great if we could do that district-wide. So, organize.
I have a question. Do we teach programming of computers anywhere in our system?
Yes.
Where?
Middle school?
And that means
Everywhere.
learning the computer language. Like, forgive me, but it used to be called COBOL way back. I don't know what it's called now. It's another language.
It's something we've actually expanded. It was interest to me. Some parents raised the issue 2-3 years ago, and I talked to Tom Landers, and we've expanded programming, and we're offering, I think we're up to 2 or 3 sections now.
I mean, I took one for the first time this year. So we, when I was actually a freshman, we had a class called computer science, and it didn't have the best reputation. And when I was a sophomore, a new teacher came in, Ms. Daly, and I've had her for a week, and I love her. She's a great teacher so far, and
Very popular.
Yes, and from students that took the class last year, it's a great class. I think that when she came on, that it was greatly expanded upon. So we have, I think there's 2 sections of AP Computer Science, 2 sections of regular computer science, and I believe they also do stuff in computer class in middle school. But I know that it's a high level math class. That's what it's classified. But it teaches the language Java. That they
The
select.
University of Massachusetts used to offer French. This is for graduate school, for a master's. You could take French, German, or computer language. And it seems to me computer language might be something that we really want to fix on for the 21st century. I don't know about Mandarin Chinese, to be very frank, but the computers are with us, and they're going to be with us.
Well,
whether we go north or south, east or west.
Well, we've been expanding,
the language that
definitely.
we're currently teaching to be, and the reason it's Java, and the reason is because that's what the AP test is based on. But I believe in regular computer science, which is not towards the AP test. They also cover HTML, Objective, C++, and some other languages.
Mhm.
So yeah, at the high school we do have 2 high-level math classes that cover both a variety of different languages and specifically Java for the AP test. And it was 4 sections of that.
And that was a concern raised by a parent when I first came, so I'm delighted that we found a teacher that could do it, and the program continues to expand pretty rapidly.
It does.
The other piece of that is gaming is a huge profession right now, and there are so many kids that are interested in that.
We have a
But
club
in
for that.
order to even consider that for a profession, you need the programming,
Mhm,
so that you
absolutely.
know that it's something that you're interested in. And there are very few colleges doing it, but it's something else that, I'd like to see if we could do some after-school around doing gaming, but you need
believe there's a
expensive
club.
equipment.
We have a gaming club.
Okay.
And yeah, absolutely, as students who would like to do that and pursue that in college, I think they'd be greatly benefited by taking the class AP Computer Science or regular computer science. It's all about programming. So yeah, we do have a club for gaming, and then obviously the language is covered in the class.
Great, because we had talked about that earlier, so that's good to hear. So that's exciting. That's been an area, I think, of huge growth, so.
Absolutely.
All right, so any other questions for Marie about her goals? Okay. So both the school committee goals and Marie's goals will be put online under our respective websites so that everyone can see what we're all gonna be doing this year. All righty, warrants.
Okay. I move that the school committee approve the warrant batch number 2200 of the school lunch fund fiscal year 2015, dated September 12th, 2014, in the amount of $37,676.05.
Motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second, all those in favor? Any opposed? Okay.
Okay, I move that the school committee approve the warrant batch number 2014 of the special revenues and grant funds fiscal year 2014, dated September 12th, 2014, in the amount of $21,561.70.
Okay, there's a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second, all those in favor? Okay.
Thank you.
And this is the third one. I move the school committee approve the warrant batch number 2015 of the general operating fund fiscal year 2015, dated September 12th, 2014, in the amount of $385,147.35.
Okay, we have a motion, do I have a second?
I can second.
Okay, all those in favor? All right,
Unanimous.
that's the end of the warrants. Okay.
That's it.
All right, so we have some minutes to approve. Katie, would you like to
I
take
move
that away?
that the school committee approve the minutes for June 2nd, 2014, school committee meeting as presented.
June 2nd or June 9th?
June 9th.
Did I say June 2nd?
You
Yeah,
did,
sorry.
but that's okay. So for June 9th. So I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, any comments or corrections to those minutes? All those in favor? Any opposed?
The next one's one in your packet.
Pardon?
There's two.
The next two were not in our packet.
I was gonna say, 21st.
And for the next one, I would say approve but not release.
No, they weren't in the
Wait.
packet.
Oh, so
You
we're
don't
not
even
doing-
have them.
So we'll,
So we're skipping June 9th
I'm
exec
sorry.
and July 21st, is that correct?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So I move the school committee approve the minutes to the July 28th, 2014 school committee meeting as presented.
Motion, do I have a second? Okay, any corrections, comments, changes? Okay, all those in favor? You were opposed or abstained?
Abstaining, I was absent.
One abstention?
I move that the school committee approve the minutes to the August 11th, 2014 school committee meeting as presented.
Have a second? Okay. Any corrections or comments? All right, all those in favor? Any opposed? Okay. All right, and since there is no executive session planned, I would love to entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second? Second. All those in favor? All right, thank you very much. We will see you back here in 2 weeks.